Good morning and welcome to the Killik and Co Market Update. This week, Trade Association UK Finance has published a report looking at payment trends in the UK market. We know that cash has been on the decline for quite some time, and we know that digital payments have been on the rise, but it's still helpful to look at the data and see exactly how fast these trends are moving and also how much further there still is to go. According to the report, cash payments fell by 35% in the year 2020 in comparison to 2019, and that's partly due to hygiene factors. People were reluctant to handle cash during the pandemic, but it's also due to the fact that there was an overall decline in transactions because people were not allowed to go out and spend. This table here shows the total number of transactions in the UK in the full year 2020 broken down by payment type. So as you can see, debit cards were by far the most popular form of payment, followed by cash, and about half of these debit card payments were contactless payments. So this big rise in debit card payments is good news for card networks such as Visa and MasterCard. Over the last few years, there has been a significant rise in the popularity of contactless payments, and they made up 27% of overall payments in the year 2020. Part of this is due to hygiene factors, as we mentioned earlier, but it's also due to the fact that the contactless limit has been steadily rising over the last few years. At the start of the pandemic, the limit was increased to £45, and the regulator has recently signed off a further increase to £100. So when that happens, it's likely that contactless payments will then make up an even larger proportion of our overall spending. This week, the Food and Drink Federation published data showing the level of UK food and drink exports over the last 2 years, and it's worrying to see such a huge decline in exports going to the EU. The first 3 bars on this chart here show the level of UK food and drink exports going to all countries for the years 2019, 2020 and 2021. The next 3 bars show it just for the EU countries, and the final 3 show it just for non-EU countries. Arguably, a global pandemic will have declined our overall level of exports, but as you can see, the decline for EU countries is far worse than the decline for other countries, and that implies that Brexit is a major factor here. Our government has been very critical of the EU for imposing red tape on our trade, and this data suggests that criticism is justified. Falling exports will be bad news for UK economic growth, so we'll just have to hope that trade starts to become more frictionless. We've talked about cybersecurity a lot recently following a number of high-profile hacks. For example, the attack on the Colonial Pipeline, the attack on the world's largest meat processor, and finally the attack on the Irish healthcare system. So we were interested to read a report from Gartner predicting that spending on cybersecurity will increase by 12.4% this year and that it will reach a level of $150 billion. This chart here breaks down the different areas of cybersecurity, and it shows the spending that took place in those areas last year in the pink and the expected spending in those areas in the green for this year. I won't go through all of them, but I just wanted to draw your attention to the one at the very bottom, cloud security. At the moment, this represents a very small proportion of overall cybersecurity spending, but it is the fastest growing area, expected to grow by over 40% between 2020 and 2021. As more and more businesses move their data into the cloud, and as more workers want to work remotely, it's likely that this area will become increasingly important. Moving on to have a look at next week, we've got results out from Accenture and Nike. That's it from us. Enjoy the weekend, and we'll see you next Friday.